Sanitation University. Department is School of Agriculture. So today we will talk about soil improvements and soil amendments. So basically, the contents are saline and alkali soils. Saline soil, that is white alkali, sodic soil, black alkali, non-saline alkali, saline alkali land, and effects of soil salinity and alkalinity, what is the acid soils, and more about saline soils. So there is saline and alkali soils when the chloride, sulfate, carbonate, bicarbonate salts of sodium, that is Na plus, calcium Ca2, and magnesium are increased in soil, then the soil becomes saline and alkali. So on the basis of amount of salts, average quantity of exchangeable sodium and pH, such soils are classified as saline, alkali, and saline alkali soils. Saline soil, that is white alkali, what are the characteristics? So the characteristics of saline soils are high toxic concentration of soluble salt in the root zone. Soluble salts are chloride and sodium, carbon and magnesium. Then electrical conductivity, that is EC, of soil solution with saturated extract is more than 4 ds per meter at 25 degrees centigrade, and the ESV is more than 8.5. So how there is the formation of saline soil. So saline soil, that is common in arid and semi-arid regions which having rainfall less than 55 centimeter. Loads of salts are deposited on soil surface in saline soil, and saline soil layer shines white in dry season. Then what are the favorable conditions? So favorable conditions in which high water table with a fairly high salt concentration. Then the second is high temperature. Third one is low rainfall sources of salts, soil, groundwater, irrigation water, canal and sea. After that, their reclamation. So first is remove excess salt to a desired level in the root zone. Then leach with good quality water. Third is give adequate drainage. Then intermittent pending of water. Salt tolerant crops are grown during initial period. After that, sodic soil, that is black alkali, non-saline alkali. So in this high exchangeable sodium percentage interference with plant growth. Characteristics like their EC is more than 4 at 25 degrees centigrade, and their ESP is 15%, and the pH is less than 0. pH is 8.5 or 8.52 to 10. Low infiltration rate. Occurrence is Indo-Gangetic plains of UP, Punjab and Haryana. So their recumulation replace exchangeable sodium by calcium and thus released sodium plus salt be leached out of root zone. After that, what are the amendments? So the amendments are like gypsum, that is calcium sulfate, phosphogypsum, third one is iron pyrite, then calcium salts, acid, acid formation material, bulky organic manures like green manures, crop residues. These are applied in conjugation with gypsum, so it leaching with water of good quality. After that, their management practice. In management practices like cropping with green manure, apply high dose of nitrogen because of volatilization nitrogen loss. That means like we have to just keep the high dose of nitrogen because nitrogen which will be volatile and the more nitrogen loss will be there due to the volatilization or there will be the leaching of the nitrogen. So apply zinc during initial years of reclamation and frequent irrigation with small quantities of water. Saline, alkali, land characteristics like their EC is 4 at 25 degrees centigrade, their ESP is 15% and the pH is more than 8.5%. Then third is the aridity, then poor external or internal drainage, then the irrigation by stylish, the irrigation by saltless water, then permanent water source, irrigation by saltless water, permanent water course, and it should be rise in water table by excess irrigation. Then the rise in water table, rise in water table by excess irrigation. Then erratic use of irrigation water, that is the flooding followed by intention drought. Organically, weed management. So, in which we will discuss about content, what is the introduction, and organic methods of weed management. So the introduction is like weeds can be considered a significant problem because they tend to decrease crop yield by increasing the competition for water, sunlight, and nutrients while serving as host plant for pests and diseases. uh, like because the weeds those are the unwanted plants and we have to just remove the particular plant without using any kind of chemical in organic farming. So how we have to use uh, here, so the weeds can be considered as a significant problem because they tend to decrease crop yields by increasing the competition of yield by increasing the competition of water, sunlight, and nutrients while surviving as host. Then the plant for waste and so since the invention of herbicide, farmers have used Farmers have used these chemicals to eradicate weeds from other and from their field. So today some farmers have a renewed interest in organic method of managing weed since the widespread use of agrochemicals has resulted in. It has also been found that in some cases the herbicide can cause some weed species to dominate field because the weed develop resistance to herbicide. And in addition, some bactericides are capable of destroying weeds that are harmless to crops, which resulting in a potential decrease in biodiversity on farms. It is important to understand that under an organic system of weed control, weed will never be estimated but not only managed. That means weed are also many types. Some weeds which can be easily controlled. So it is an important to understand that under an organic system of weed control, the weeds will never be eliminated, only managed. So organic weed management is a holistic system which involving as entirely different approach to managing a farming system. So the organic farmer is not interested in eliminating all weeds but wants to keep the weeds at a threshold that is both economical and manageable. So a farmer who manages weeds organically must be intimately familiar with the types of weed and their crop habits to determine which control methods to employ. Then Organic methods of weed management. So here is first is the thermal weed control. Thermal weed control, which involves the use of flaming equipment to create direct contact between the flame and the plant. So this technique works by rupturing the plant cell when the sap rapidly expands in the cells. So sometimes the thermal control involves the outside burning down of the weeds, and we can like flaming can be used either before crop emergence. So the flaming can be used either before crop emergence to give the crop a competitive advantage, or after the crop has emerged. However, flaming at this point in the crop production cycle may damage the crop. Although the initial equipment cost may be high, flaming for weed control may prove cheaper than hand weeding. And also we can use the flaming either before crop emergence to give the crop a competitive advantage, or after the crop has emerged. However, the flaming at this point in the crop production cycle may be damage the crop. Then soil solarization. During summer and fall, organic farmers sometimes sterilize their soil through the solarization. So during this process, a clear plastic film which is placed over an area after a clear plastic film is placed over an area after it has been tilled. Then the solarization works when the heat created under the plastic film, which is highly seen at the edges, becomes intense enough to kill the weed seeds. Another type of management is mulch or by mulching. So, mulching or covering the soil surface can prevent the weed seed germination by blocking light transmission, preventing seed germination. Allelopathic chemicals in the mulch also can physically suppress seedling emergence. So there are many forms of mulches. Those are available. Listed are three common ones. First is living mulch. Living mulch is usually a plant species that grows densely and low to the ground, such as clover. Living mulches, which can be planted before or after a crop is established. It is important to till in, or otherwise manage the living mulch in that it does not compete with the actual crop. The living mulch. Another type is organic mulches, such as such material as straw, bark, and composted material, which can provide effective weed control. Producing the material on the farm is recommended since the cost of purchased mulches, which can be prohibitive depending on the amount depending on the amount needed to suppress weed emergence. Then, an effective but labor-intensive system uses newspaper and straw. So, two layers of newspaper are placed on the ground, followed by a layer of hay, and it is important to make sure the hay does not contain any weed seed. In organic mulches, materials such as black polythene have been used for weed control in a range of crops in organic production system. Uh, okay. In next class, we will discuss about what is the mechanical weed management, what are the procedure, and how we can manage the weed by different manner. Okay, thank you. Myself, Manju Sharma, Suresh Can University, Department and School of Agriculture. So today we are going to talk about organic mulches, different types of mulching, how we can control the weed organic. So the organic mulches, such materials as straw, bark, and composted material can provide effective weed control. Producing the material on the farm is recommended since the cost of purchased mulches can be prohibitive and depending on the amount needed to suppress weed emergence. So, an effective but labor intensive system uses newspaper and straw. So, two layers of newspaper are placed on the ground, followed by a layer of hay. So, it is important to make sure the hay does not contain any weed seeds. In organic mulches, materials such as black polythene have been used for weed control in a range of crops in organic production system. After that, mechanical weed management. Mechanical weed management, labor intensive, but it is also one of the most effective method for managing the weeds. So the choice of implementation, timing and frequency will depend on the texture, form of the crop, and the type and number of the weeds. So the basically cultivation involves killing emerging weeds or planting freshly seed weeds seeds below the depth from which they will germinate. So in mechanical weed management, basically there is the cultivation which involves emerging weeds or burying freshly seed weed seed below the depth from which they will germinate. So next is stale seed bed. Stale or false seed bed technique of flushing out weed seeds from the soil, which works as thought and works by depleting the seed bank. After the soil is cultivated, 2 to 3 weeks before the sowing, emerging weeds are killed by flaming or light cultivation. So that by helping to reduce the seed bank, this technique reduces subsequent emergence of weeds. Then next is crop rotation. Crop rotation has been at the heart of the organic weed management system since medieval times and has persisted well into the 20th century due to its proven effect on weed populations. So, the goal of a crop rotation is to protect an unstable and so the crop rotation, which has been at the heart of the organic weed management system since medieval times and has persisted well into the so the goal of a crop rotation is to create an unstable environment that discourages weeds from becoming established in the field. So, deciding the sequence of crops, a farmer must take into the type of soil he or she is working with, the climate, and the crop. Then, the crop establishment and competition. First is the sanitation. Sanitation, so that is using clean seed will prevent the introduction of new weed problems and will avoid planting a generous crop of weeds with your desired crop. Then allelopathy. Allelopathy is an alternative and organic approach to weed control that uses chemicals that are excreted from a plant to cause either direct or indirect harm to weeds by negatively affecting their germination, growth, or development. So, the nearly weeds can be affected by allelopathic chemicals entering the rhizosphere from the roots or the aerial part of the crop plants. Soil fertility and condition. In an organic system, it is important to rely on the biological activity of the soil as the main source of fertility and favorable soil structure. So, in an organic system, it is important to rely on the biological activity of the soil as the main source of fertility and favorable soil structure. So, an active and diverse soil microbial population is the key, key to growing healthy, high yielding organic crops. So, next is variety selection. Variety selection, a careful selection of crop varieties which is essential to limit the weeds pathogen problems and satisfy markedly feeder needs. It is important to consider the planting diseases resistant varieties if certain pathogens are prevalent in the area. So, any crop variety that is able to be cared and is able to grow more rapidly than the weeds will be an advantage. After that, go herbicides. Mycoherbicide, that means herbicides, especially soil applied, have harmful effects on both human and animal. In this context, fungal pathogens control specifically and continue to survive on the weeds year after year, unlike herbicides that are to be applied every year. So the characteristics of mycoherbicides, that is, they should be culturable in artificial media. Next is they should use abundant indoors. And third one, they should be stable in storage. Fourth is should be genetically stable. Fifth one is effective under field condition, tolerant to variation in temperature. Next one is these herbicides should be compatible with other chemicals, culturable practices for controlling water Instead, Altiria, Ecoremia, Sarcospora, Pieropi, Sarcospora, Rodmani, Urido, Ecoremia, and Rhizotonia solidi. Mycoherbicide, myco that means fungus. That's why they should be cultivable in artificial medium. Basically, it should be also tolerant to variation in temperature, and these herbicides should be compatible with other chemical for controlling water. So these are the species of mycoherbicides. After we need food quality and what is organic food, in which we will talk about introduction, chemical food contaminants, microbial food contaminants, food irradiation, aims of organic production and processing. So first is the introduction. Expect their food to be enjoyable, nutritious, and safe. So quality attributes include first is nutritional, second is organoleptic properties, appearance like color, texture, and taste, and next one is functional properties. Then chemical food contaminants in which like synthetic pesticide, herbicide, fertilizers. Next is chemical food contaminants in which like synthetic pesticides, herbicides, fertilizer, fungicides, veterinary drugs in which antibiotic, synthetic pesticide, fertilizer, fungicide, veterinary drugs in which including like antibiotics, growth hormones, synthetic preservatives, and additives and irradiation. So first thing is pesticide residue in which like organically produced foods which contain less residues than conventionally produced food. Then next one is organic certification schemes specify that land must be free from chemical inputs for 2 to 3 years prior to organic production. Then nitrates from fertilizers. Nitrates contain of organically grown crop, particularly nitrophilic leaf, root, and tuber crops. So is reported to be significantly lower than in conventional soil. After that quality control standard. So in which like what are their contents, what is the introduction, IFOAM, aims and activities of IFOAM, their standards. So the four IFOAM main principle of organic production, Codex Alimentarius Guidelines, Codex Guidelines for Organic Production System. So there is standard, the four IFOAM, main principle of production, Codex Alimentarius Guidelines, Codex Guidelines for Organic Production System, European Union regulations, National Standard for Organic Production, that is NSOP, and common issues in various standards. So, first is the introduction. Introduction, in order to assure the consumer that a product is produced organically and a kind of quality control is needed. So the organic is based on standards, certification and accreditation. All organic food which is produced and handled the organic quality which is based on the standard, inspection, certification and accreditation. So the all organic food which is produced and handled according to a strict rule, that is called organic standard. So these standards those cover all aspects of food production from animal welfare and wildlife conservation. Wildlife conservation to not having artificial additives. So in next we will also discuss about what is the IFOAM, what is the aims and objective of IFOAM, what are their standards, the four IFOAM main principle of organic production, what is the Codex Alimentarius Guidelines, what is the Codex Guidelines for Organic Production System, then National Standard for Organic Production, that is NSOP, and what are the common issues in various standards. So basically, uh, there is the 25% of India's population at 3 square meal per day. So green revolution was only concentrated in area having fertile soil and adequate water supply. So this 30% of the area which is contributed 60% of the food production, while 70% of the area which is contributed only 40%. So this 30% of the green revolution area which is contributed 60% of the food production, while 60% of the area which is contributed only 40%. So in intensive farming system, organic agriculture which decreases the yield, in the green revolution intensive farming system, organic agriculture has decreased in the green areas, green revolution area that was irrigated land and well endowed water regions, conversion to organic usually leads to almost identical yields. So, in intensive farming system, basically the organic agriculture which decrease the yield. The green revolution areas, there is the conversion to organic usually leads to almost identical yield. Then, in traditional rain-fed areas, that is with low external inputs, organic agriculture has shown the potential to increase the yield. So, in traditional rain-fed areas with low external input, organic agriculture has the potential to increase the yields under restricted water availability or rain-fed condition. So there is the difference in crop yield between organic and conventional production narrow down to between 10 to 15%. So there is the technical team which is constituted by the Ministry of Agriculture made the following observation. So the first is the country at present is not in a position to completely eliminate the use of chemical, especially the fertilizer. Fertilizer can gradually be reduced, then control on commercial scale of organic manures and IPM is the solution. So the task force on organic farming, which is set up the Union Ministry of Agriculture during 2001, which brought out the status of organic farming in the country. So in its report, it is stated organic farming is being practiced by thousands of farmers in the country in an unorganized way. Like that, these are the consequence of the use of high yielding varieties in which more fertilizer, then more cost, then more borrowing, distress farmers, food and fodder, less nutritive and chemically, encourage monocropping, reduce nutritional security, then goal profit, not the welfare, precursor of chemical agriculture, succulent pest and disease which uses one third of the applied fertilizer, then reduce the biodiversity and then leaves of unproductive in the long. Are the effects of green revolution. Chemical companies that develop highly toxic, damaging chemical for the purpose of welfare will decide to turn their attention to chemical control of insects, disease, and unwanted plants. So, in natural fertility of soil. Third is destruction of soil structure, aeration and holding capacity of soil, susceptibility of soil to water and wind erosion, as low as the 15 per hectare soil is lost. So in India, it is even more. There is flooding of river, diminishing return on import, discriminate killing of useful insects, microorganisms, and predators that naturally check success crop damaged by unsafe waste, and endangering the health of the farmer and worker who produce them for more than 20 years have increased the risk of developing certain type of cancer. Poisoning the food with highly toxic pesticide residue. So first is poisoning the food with highly toxic pesticide residue, cash crops replacing nutritious food crops, chemicals changing the natural taste of the food, and high inputs increasing the natural taste of the food, high input increasing the agriculture expenses, increasing the farmers' work burden and tension, depleting the fossil resources, and increasing the irrigation which needs of the land. Uh, in next class, we will discuss about what is the concept of organic agriculture. Up to here, we just completed what is the organic farming, organic production, and how we can maintain the quality of the food in organic production, and what types of content we have to use in organic agriculture.